I'd like to call this regular city council meeting of April 8th, 2013 to order. And we would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call shows all departments and council is present. Review the minutes of March 25th.
I'll move the minutes if nobody has anything.
Support.
I just had one thing on the cable thing on the second sentence. It said he stated there are templates from other communities we can use, and it should be to create bylaws for a new cable commission.
I had a question too for Harvey. In your motion on front page, to correct the minutes, the state mayor Wallace was absent with notice, not excused. Are you suggesting from now on that we do that with everybody that gives notice and doesn't show, they're not going to be here?
Typically what would happen is, the practice as I recall it, is someone then makes a motion to excuse the member absent, and that never occurred. But the absent with notice let us know, or let people know, we knew where you were. It wasn't you were just absent, you had told us where you were going to be. And that's why I phrased it the way I did.
Okay, anything else on this?
That was more our oversight than anything. We should have just approved it as a matter of course. So.
Well,
okay.
I guess I'll move again as amended.
Yeah.
Still supporting.
For discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Monthly bills.
Question.
Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The March financial report is the end of the third quarter of our fiscal year. And I was looking at the revenue report, the bottom two items, miscellaneous. And it seems to me, if my recollection is correct, we budgeted $201,000 because that's approximately what we had done the year before. And we seem to be well behind that this year. Year-to-date actual is $86,000. Do we have a reason for that?
Well, some more money will come in when the taxes are settled, also as people pay their late taxes. But some things that happened last year are not happening this year. Last year, there was a few people that were off. When those people are off on short-term disability, they turn their checks into the city, and then we pay them for their time off. We have not had those people out at long lengths as we did last year, so that's why it's a little short this year.
Okay.
But it's always just a best guess estimate.
Thank you. And then the next one down, transfer from cemetery fund. I'm going to guess that that's done at a one-time transfer at the end of the year?
Yeah, that's correct, yes, sir.
So that balances?
Yes, sir.
And then my final question, if I may, is on the last page of the expenditure report, and it's the water and sewer expenditures, which are from the year-to-date actual compared to the original and amended budgets, over $1.1 million in the whole. It seems to me we should have had some budget amendments along the way that recognize some revenue coming in. When will we see the budget?
Very soon.
Okay.
Within the next two meetings, and we should have, and that was the plan, but things have been a little out of sorts for the last several months.
All right, but it is recognized and it is planned for.
Part of that is the depreciation, which happens every year in that last item. That's just, you don't budget for that, that just always happens. So if you take that depreciation off of there, the budget is much more clear. The water construction, that was not budgeted for, that needs to be budgeted for, but that money has come in and dispersed. So it's just kind of an in and out thing. But the budget amendment, the budget needs to be amended to reflect that,
Okay.
and it will be.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else on the bills? Somebody want to pay them?
I move the bills.
I'll support.
Bev did it.
Oh, Bev did? Sorry.
Further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, approval of the agenda, additions, deletions.
There is one addition I'd like to make. That's new business item number 5, and that's an employee buyout.
Anything else?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
I'll support.
Further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment. At this time, somebody wishes to speak on an item not listed. You may come up to the microphone here. State your name and address.
Jim Ramsey, 896 Oak Creek Drive, South Lyon. My concern is addressed to the mayor and the council and the city manager and the superintendent of public works. The railroad tracks on 9 Mile, just west of Griswold, and the tracks by the hardware store on 10 Mile are atrocious. And it's getting to the point now where it's starting to damage people's cars, out around tires, front end alignments, and I'd like to know when the railroad is going to fix these and how much pressure you people can exert on them. Thank you.
City manager can answer that for you.
We actually met with the railroad. We have to go through MDOT. And MDOT set up a meeting last November, I believe, with the railroad. The railroad didn't even bother to show up, but they did get them on the phone, and the county was there because it's a county road. They've stated that they will be redoing that whole area in 2014. In the meantime, they're supposed to be taking care of some of the sidewalk and at least trying to fill in some of the cracked areas around the railroad tracks. It won't make it much better, but it should make it a little better. As far as exerting some pressure on them, we can keep on them. If you call MDOT, that would help. If maybe the mayor or the council calls MDOT, that would help as well. But basically, they came out, they set up a game plan, and they're letting them off with that.
Just a follow-up.
Go ahead, speak at the microphone, please.
This is a follow-up. 2014, there's a big difference between January 2014 and December of 2014.
Well, it would be in the construction season, so I would assume it would be the summer of 2014.
Okay, but they didn't give any definite date.
No, sir, they did not. Just the construction season of 2014.
And just remember, the crossing at 9 Mile, sir, is in the township, not the city, okay? So we've talked to them also about talking to them about that. I have.
So call them in and,
Yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
And I can give you a number if you like.
My muffler's in the township.
So, I mean, not the second, but it's in my office. Okay.
I'll just call you.
They are bad, though. My muffler's sitting in the township on that mount. I lost it at that rail track.
Slow down a little bit.
Hey, hey, hey. I slow down in the city.
Okay, we have another citizen wishes to speak.
Bruce Nussbaum, 525 Willow Drive. I'm basically here because I've started working with the local group called Operation Injured Soldiers. Unlike other groups, their main objective is all the money they raise goes to help injured soldiers. If they want to go hunting, they want to go fishing. I believe right now they're going to be going in a week or so. They're taking some of them down shark fishing in Florida. They have one person that's going on a safari in Africa this year. And they've gotten a lot of cooperation out of American Airlines, and I believe some people from American Airlines are going to be making this trip for shark fishing because they'd like to do more for this group. This group was started in South Lyon. They are very dedicated. They are 100% volunteer. Nobody gets paid. 100% of the money goes to help injured soldiers. They have a 501c, they accept donations, they're tax deductible. They are always looking for volunteers that will hunt or fish to go along on these hunting and fishing groups because they need people. But they have special equipment, they have a special platform they can actually put out in the woods where they can wheel a wheelchair up into this apparatus. They have a rifle mounted on it that they, with 2 different barrels, they can use it for deer or use it for pheasant. A couple weeks ago, they were on a preserve and took a bunch of them up pheasant hunting. And I really feel that it's a way to give back, and it's a way for these injured soldiers to get the good feeling to be out there with the weapons again, to get out there and do something that they're used to doing. And it's just a great group of guys. And I have some brochures here I'm going to leave in the back tonight. And I wish more people, if they hunt or fish, would get in touch with these people. They have an office in the same building as Parkside Cleaners. They have a golf outing coming up on May the 17th. It's going to be at Links and Novi. It's going to be a great day. They also will have a couple concerts this year, and if you go on your website, you will see a schedule for the whole year. And as I said, I like working with them. They're a great bunch of people. They sell shirts, hats, anything they can to raise money for injured soldiers. And it's a way for the soldiers to actually participate. And with the weapon they had last year, they had a quadriplegic get an 8-point buck, and all he had to work with was a straw in his mouth. They always have a guide standing next to him who has a safety that he has to release before the injured soldier can use the weapon. And they need people that like to hunt and fish or go to concerts, and they also take them to Michigan State football games and anything they can to help these guys returning that are injured. And I wish that I had done this sooner and come up here, because I think in the 3 or 4 years I've been coming up to the council meetings, I've never heard it discussed up here. And it's a great group of people, and I wish more people would get involved with them. They need all the help they can get. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. If I can throw a quick story in on that, they took a fishing trip, and they had 2 injured soldiers get one put in the front, one put in the back, and they looked at each other, and it was total disbelief. Each one thought they had been killed in that bombing in Iraq. They both were able to crawl, leap towards each other to hug each other. And they said the ones who witnessed it was just full tears. It was unbelievable to see their reaction when they realized both of them were still alive. And they didn't even know it until they were in the boat together.
I've heard that same story, yeah.
It's for injured soldiers at Parkside Cleaners. You can stop by there to get more information. Anybody else? Okay, we can move on to old business, and we don't have any. New business, request for closing of a portion of Liberty Street. Chief?
This is another step to facilitate the move of the farmers market from Wednesdays to Saturdays. And the DDA has requested closing just a portion of West Liberty from Pontiac Trail or Lafayette to just east of the AT&T driveway. And by closing that portion of West Liberty, that would allow added safety for pedestrians crossing West Liberty between the north and the south city lots, both of which this year will be used for the farmers market. So I'm recommending approval of the closure. And just a note for mayor and council, I'm so used to adding the county road closure form in with any road closure that was in your packet unnecessarily.
I have a question on that, too. You're just closing that small section. Now, don't you think you should still close it off at Washington Street? Because you're going to have traffic coming down the road at them and then turning around people's driveways. And
Well, I evaluated the request that was submitted, and this is what was requested. It would become more complicated if we want to close West Liberty at Washington, because then you need to get sign-offs from residents, or council needs to make a decision to close the road absent those sign-offs.
Will you follow what I'm saying, though?
I do
They're
follow
going to
it.
whip around the corner, head on down there, and then realize they can't get through.
What we can do, and I will ask Mr. Martin to do this, is not a total closure,
No,
but
just
for
a warning
the,
sign.
for the
Yeah.
eastbound lane, we'll put a small barricade up there that says road closed ahead.
That's what I say, anything to keep them from going, and then ended up turning around people's driveways.
Well, at least they'll know then, if they go down there, hopefully they'll have a purpose.
Yeah.
There
Okay.
still is plenty of parking space along there, though, that they can avail themselves of.
I'm understanding on the parking, but there's got to be some kind of warning that the road is closed at the other end. Otherwise, you are going to have people turning around in the driveways all day long. So, okay. Anybody want to approve this?
I'll make the motion that we approve the DDA request to authorize the closure of West Liberty Street from Lafayette to just east of the AT&T driveway on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. from May 23rd, 2013 through October 10th, 2013.
On those certain Saturdays.
Right.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The MMRMA grant, Fire Department, Chief Kennedy.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, I apologize for not being in uniform. I get to leave from here and go to a small basketball potential celebration tonight at my other employment. The MMRMA grant is through the city's risk liability carrier. I believe Mr. Martin got his SS minnow for the wastewater treatment plant there earlier this year. And so it's a similar grant program. Chief Collins, I believe, has also received funding through that. This is a fire officer command program that's gained a lot of steam nationally. A lot of departments in both Oakland and Livingston County have gone for it. And we actually submitted for this back in November. They've got a very lengthy process, and we just kind of missed one of their grant cycles. So in the letter attached to your packet, we were approved for that in March, and it's a 50% grant. We've got to spend it, basically submit proof of attendance and payment, and then we get that 50% back. Because there's a 6-month window on this and want to make sure our personnel have enough time to approve it, I'd like to actually start it this fiscal year, even though I didn't necessarily, it wasn't budgeted this year. I had it budgeted that you'll be getting soon here for the 13-14 fiscal year. But at the end of the day, this was something I feel is a valuable training, and it's a revenue stream we wouldn't otherwise have by going outside of this grant. So I would ask for your approval for us to pay for it this fiscal year, and then again, so we'd be eligible for that reimbursement.
I move that we approve the expenditure of $3,080 for the Blue Card Command Training to receive a 50% reimbursement from IRMA.
I'll support.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
And while you're next on the agenda,
Why I'm up. Chief Ron McLean from Lyon Township Fire and myself are always working with each other to try to find collaborative working relationships. We enjoy very good mutual aid relationships with all the surrounding departments. This weekend we had a fire in Lyon Township. Green Oak came in. Green Oak then had a fire Sunday afternoon. Us and a whole bunch of other departments went to assist them. So we really have a fantastic mutual aid group. We're unique because we work with 3 counties regularly, between Washington, Oakland, and Livingston. Part of what Chief McLean and I have discussed is kind of taken that a step further. Some departments in Washtenaw County, mainly Ann Arbor Township and Superior Township, along with Scioto Township, have gone beyond just the standard structure fire mutual aid agreement, which is what we currently have, to looking at other levels or other emergency incidents where, because of the location of assets, some departments are closer than others. That's what we deal with here because of our geography. There's some of those Lyon Township islands, such as Woodland Drive, several properties off Dixboro, and then the kind of Pontiac Trail corridor south of the city, where Lyon Township assets have to pass through the city. And oftentimes, we've actually had staffing at our station and have watched them drive by on Lafayette, where for an emergency call, we could have been there quicker. So this idea was floated to the Lyon Township Board at their meeting last week. Chief McLean and I continue to work on this. We're right now still trying to hammer out the dispatch side. There's some hurdles that we're going through because Lyon Township is dispatched by Oakland County. We're dispatched by Novi. We'd like to try to automate that process. I had suggested a motion tonight. I would like to retract that motion, and I would like to just basically float it out so you guys were aware that this process was going on, receive any feedback or concerns that you guys have, and then once we get to a final agreement, we're hoping to have something to go to Lyon Township at their first their first township board meeting in May. They meet monthly, and then it would hopefully come to you guys for a final document approval the second council meeting in May. That's kind of the current plan. It won't look dramatically different than this, but it will be different than this, so I don't want you to approve a document that I know has already been modified. So,
Mike, I had one concern, well, not concern, just a question. There's language in here that the, essentially the billable party,
yes.
you know, the host, if they want to request that the billable party submit an invoice, what's the reason for that? I mean, is there any expectation that that will take place, or?
Potentially, and that gets to the cost recovery ordinance that we modified, I believe it was a year and a half ago. So if there was like a commercial hazardous material hauler that maybe rolled a tanker on Pontiac Trail between 8 and 9 that's in Lyon Township, we went and responded to them. We wouldn't normally submit a bill to Lyon Township. They have a cost recovery ordinance similar to us. So in order for them to go after that carrier, we would give an invoice to them. They would collect that invoice, roll it with theirs, and then submit it to that carrier.
So it'd be looking for the grand sum rather than
exactly. Yeah, we wouldn't invoice that private party carrier directly, and then Lyon Township invoice them directly. We'd roll it to them,
okay.
And then they, and that's what that speaks
That
to.
makes sense. Yes, thank you.
Harvey.
Just a quick question. The refinements that you need to make yet are primarily around dispatch. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So this is being informational then?
Exactly. Yeah, informational. Wanted you to be aware. At the end of the day, we don't see a substantial cost to the city here. This is more calls than we're currently doing, however. Again, a lot of this is just looked upon doing the right thing and
Well, it's morally right as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, being a good neighbor. So
I mean, health and safety wise, it makes good sense too. So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Mike.
Just so I understand this, if we respond to a Lyon Township incident within the parameters of this agreement,
yep.
Lyon Township still has to respond.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, we're very clear on that even if we get there first, we may slow them down. And if we, a lot of times we'll get a report of an emergency, we get there and it's not an emergency, so we would back them off so they just go what we call normal traffic, so they don't go lights and sirens, because there's obviously increased liability for everyone when that happens. They would still respond and they would still create an incident number, and it's their call, and we'd actually transfer command to them when they got there because they're the authority having jurisdiction. Same thing for being in the city. So this, at no time would we respond separate from them, and similarly, if it was an incident in the city, they wouldn't respond to incidents without us responding.
I guess my concern is if we happen to respond first
Yep.
and address whatever's happening at the scene, like fire, hazardous waste, and
Yep.
use our equipment, use our materials to the point where when Lyon Township does finally arrive, most of our equipment's already been used. At that point, what do we do about cost recovery?
For a lot of, when we're talking about substantial physical equipment expense, that would probably roll into the cost recovery where they would look at billing. For similar hazardous materials incidents such as this, it's whether or not it was our equipment or theirs, we would roll that into that cost recovery that they would go on. It's a similar, if we were to have a large incident for either district, we'd be calling Oakland County Hazmat. And that's a county-based hazmat team that has training and equipment beyond what either of our department has. Again, we would kind of deplete our resources, they come in, and then we would use any additional equipment they would have. Most of the cost recovery stuff actually gets into freeway incidents. That's why for the city we really haven't had to address it much. And a lot of what they tend to deal with, again, are some car accidents on Pontiac Trail there, and incidents kind of in that Kroger complex at 8 and Pontiac Trail, which are a lot of medical emergencies, fire alarms, those sorts of things. So if there was a large chemical industrial facility where I thought there was going to be a high call volume and really have a significant impact on us, we'd probably take a different view on this, but I really don't see this having a significant financial impact to us. And if it does, certainly we'll come back and revisit it, and then this agreement addresses that. So,
do the insurance agreements we have on our like our vehicles, do they cover incidences where we're responding as a first responder to another community's issues?
In discussion with Chief McLean and I, we feel that this is just an extension of the current mutual aid agreement that's already there. Because if we were tied up on a fire and we didn't have any resources left, we could bring in Lyon Township to go handle a medical in the city that they wouldn't normally handle. So we're kind of we're not really going into a new area. Again, we cover Green Oak, and if they're on a fire, we go and sit at their station. We cover calls as if we're their department. So our thought on this is that the current mutual aid agreement really covers that. We're just trying to make it a little bit more proactive.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Chief Kennedy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This is a nice constructive plan.
Okay, move on to number 4 of the 5 items on the agenda, cable access channel discussion.
Well, hopefully over the last 2 weeks, since you've gotten your packets, you've been able to kind of school up on just the example bylaws that are from West Bloomfield. There's a number of them that are quite similar in nature. They all speak to the same, the roles and responsibilities of the commission, the things that they're supposed to attend to. I think that this just makes good sense for our community, that we should move forward with the establishing a cable commission, allow them to establish what the baselines for programming, scheduling, capital expenditures, those types of events will end up being. We've got some assistance from people in the community that will help to generate content. This isn't to say that everything will end up being up and running. We'll impanel a group and suddenly there'll be a transition to a new era of cable for South Lyon. But it is the first step and the first sensible step to do it in an organized manner where we can anticipate long-term benefits from establishing this group. You had seen the revenue data that David had provided, so there's ample, and I know that this does cover costs of just regular operation right now, but there's plenty of money in here that is a product of this activity that I think that these marginal costs, these one-time costs, can be absorbed pretty quickly and have some long-term benefits as a product of that.
Mr. Mayor.
Mike.
I guess I have 2 initial questions. Number 1, is the purpose of this commission to provide oversight to the content of what's on the cable channel?
No, it's a public, it's a public channel, so it won't be like racy content concerns, any of that stuff. It's essentially to try to forecast there's going to be a road closure or construction in an area, so we should make a program that sort of speaks to the general nature of road construction and the inconveniences that are a product of that. It can outline where it's at and what the duration would be and all that.
Well, that kind of leads me to my second question. Then are you proposing that the city actually get into the business of running the cable station directly? Or is it going to be a situation where we do RFPs to have individuals such as and I have a question about this Herald article, but as far as how the operation is right now we have somebody that has a contract that runs a station, right? So are you proposing then with this commission that we actually have employees from the city running the cable station? Or are we going to do this more where we're bringing outside vendors in through an RFP to say, okay, this is what we're looking for, can you do it, and at what cost?
Right. My thought was the commission would make a recommendation as to how we would end up approaching that. Whether they would think that it was best that we try to take care of it in-house, or people on the commission could end up having some instrumental role with the operation, or whether they recommended we go out for an RFP to have somebody run it for us. I think this is all stuff that the commission should determine.
Because, if we're gonna, I understand what you're saying, Glenn, but my concern is I don't want to get in the business for the city of running a cable station without knowing exactly what it's going to cost us to do that. Because let's say, for instance, we go ahead with this commission, and the recommendation from the commission is that we run it ourselves. How are we going to do that? Have we gone to the next step as far as, well, how many employees are we going to need to do this 24 hours a day, what the costs are going to be? Or if we go through an RFP, what are the benefits of going through an RFP and seeing if an outside vendor would be willing to do it, or some other individual or company? I'm concerned more about not knowing
No, I
we're
certainly
getting
understand
into.
your concerns, but much like your rec center program, you guys are trying to figure the best path to solve that problem. That's essentially the same role this commission would end up undertaking, finding the best solution to provide the best service and quality that we can for the city.
Ted?
Aaron?
I read all this stuff and everything, and I understand like both parts of it, but what I don't understand, which Tim, you may have to help me, I'm just, not on the legal end of it. I'm just looking at the contract that we have existing, and I just want to make sure that we're being fair to everybody when we're doing this. If you look at the contract that we do have, I'm guessing that the contract expires January 15th of 2014. Is that correct? That the contract that we have currently?
That was my initial impression. I'd have to look at it again to
Okay, and
double-check
then I'm looking at, it says this lease agreement may be the option of the city of South Lyon can be canceled 30 days written notice upon failure of South Lyon TV to program reasonable coverage of municipal events, failure to meet public needs, or failure to utilize Channel 15 for local interest broadcasting. And then I'm looking at another paragraph that says, any citizen or organization having an objection or dispute relative to the operation of Channel 15 shall first appeal to the program director of South Lyon TV. In the event a satisfactory resolution is not achieved, agreements may be submitted to the city manager of the city of South Lyon. So I'm just concerned if we're talking about this maybe a little prematurely, that, has there been complaints to South Lyon TV that haven't been able to be resolved by South Lyon TV? And have you gotten complaints?
I don't know anything about going to South Lyon TV. I've received an email not too long ago, just, I think, some of the other council, or some of the council people received.
Okay, so you got the same thing from,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
But it
And
wasn't-
I'm just worried that we're not being fair to the existing contract. I mean, we might be a little premature in doing all this. But I don't, it says that, you know, unless, you know, it sounds like you're the one that needs to decide if we want something new, according to this contract.
Yeah, if I can, I don't know that the discussion is premature, but I think,
Would setting up a commission be premature?
I think you would, if you would set up the commission, you would have to take into account when the current contract expires and have given some thought to what you will do in the event that the expiration date comes forward. Will you transition from that current provider to something else? And I think in that context, you have to be giving some consideration to what role the commission will play and what authority it will have during the pendency of the current contract. If that makes, does that make sense?
But if the commission isn't part of the current contract now, is that,
And that's my point. If you are to create a cable commission, I think you have to be careful and consider what role it plays, what authority it has, so that you are not
violation.
infringing upon or altering the terms of the existing contract or interfering with that contract in any way. And we're not at that point yet. I think the discussion is fine, but the question of what you do going forward clearly has to be context with the understanding you have a current contract.
okay, that's what, and I'm all for discussion too on any level, but I just wanted to understand if that was correct, that we can't really step on the toes of the current contract.
To follow up on that, I think it would not be a good idea to wait until you reach the expiration of that current contract
Before you have
start taking any action, if it's of the council's mind that you want to change the existing arrangement. Now it's my understanding that arrangement has been in place for a long time, and I think it renews automatically, so you don't want to let that go if that's not what you wish to do. So it's just a matter of giving thought and then deciding what the appropriate action is or what you want to do and when to do that.
Okay.
I know that sounds very vague, but you're on the right track as far as there is a contract and you don't want to get in the way of that.
Right, and I just didn't want us causing a problem where we could need more of your help.
Is it assumed that the contract renews automatically?
Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me and I
No,
forgot to bring my file, but
It says that it should be approved annually, and it hasn't been approved in probably 7 years.
that's an issue I could look into. It's not unusual in those arrangements that, based on past practice, if there's not a specific approval, then it's been understood between the parties that it automatically renews.
And I think that's the way we've kind of viewed it, simply because no one was willing to step up and take responsibility for it. But the contract, if I recall right, takes an act of approval annually, not a renewable.
I think that's an
Just by
open
being
question
passed.
I would have to look at before I could give you a definitive answer.
I'm not
In
sure on
spite of that, though, I think that this still ends up, timing-wise, works out well. If they're willing to continue with providing that service, there really isn't any reason to try to short-circuit that, because nobody would be prepared for a while, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure where we stood just on a
Right.
legal aspect of everything so that,
Even hear somebody else stepped in with it,
you know, we discuss
which is
whatever,
what I've
all
been
the
doing
cards on the table, that's all.
No, I'm with you.
Okay.
since he went blind.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
It says, thereafter this agreement, sorry, Mike,
That's fine.
shall be renewed annually for 1-year periods unless terminated in writing by either party.
Oh, okay,
So
would
it is
essentially-
automatic renewal.
It's 1 year. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Mike,
You know, there was a article in the Herald last Thursday where it basically states that the cable station operator won't seek contract renewal. I mean, do we know if that's actually true? Because what happens?
They also said 2 weeks in a row that to send your resumes in for the commission that we haven't set up yet.
Right.
So,
That's why I'm asking the question. I mean, number one. Number two, in the event that the current owner of the owner doesn't seek renewal, what happens in January? Does South Lyon TV go like what's it called? The Newman, or what was that cable? Anyways, does it just die? I mean, what happens if it doesn't get renewed, the current contract?
Well, as you know, I've been involved for 31 years, and the last 12 years, unfortunately, Roger Hypo has gone blind. And so I talked to him about that, and his intentions were somebody wanted to join in and do that. He had no problem with that. And, you know, he probably shouldn't be the one that's on that because of the fact he's not able to put programming on now because of the fact he has gone totally blind.
So,
Of course, I've been doing it the whole time.
right, right. So I'm just, I understand. I mean, I'll be perfectly frank. I don't get the cable channel because I don't belong to WOW, so I really have no idea what's on it. My biggest concern about the cable channel is the content, because the city really doesn't have any influence that I know of. I could be wrong, but the city as itself does not really have any influence what's on the cable station. So as far as oversight is concerned, as far as content of what's on the cable station, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But as far as, because I really think you need more than one person. And again, I'm not criticizing or saying.
Well, they're
anything.
not. There's more than one.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think you need more of a city involvement of what's the content on the local cable station for the
Right.
city. That's my number one concern.
The city, just so you know, has the message board that they are in charge. They do all the messages
Oh, I
and so
understand that.
forth. And the rec department has their stuff on there as well.
Yeah,
No.
we've always put on what we wanted to.
Right, and I just,
There's never
I
been
just,
any conflict with
Bond
that.
issue tapes, and so we've even put school stuff on simply because they don't have a station running off their channel in that end of the building.
and I mean, and as Harvey brought up at the last meeting, I mean, I'm more than willing to look at ways we can expand the coverage if it doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot of money, so that we can get the local, whatever we're putting on the governmental channel, to other venues as opposed to just being only on the cable channel. Because I would like to see, you know, what's on our local station, even though I don't have WOW. So I mean, I'm all for that as well. I just don't want to be in a position where the city ends up paying, you know, new employees or whoever to operate a cable station. And I understand what you're saying as far as commission is, that's something we'll look into. But I'm just really concerned about, I don't want to be in the business, the city, having employees running a cable station. I'd be more willing to look at, you know, RFPs to see if anyone, first of all, is interested in possibly doing that programming, so we can open it up to the public. But as far as the city itself, I don't know if I want to incur the cost. So, I mean, I understand where you're going with this, Glenn, but I'm just concerned about the bigger picture down the road, what it's going to cost us.
Especially when the percentage of the people who do have WOW, I mean, you're looking at our table here. Who has it at our table? Who has WOW here? 2? 1? 1? Who has a WOW out there?
You know,
Two. We
I
got 3
stated
people with
before,
WOW.
you know, there's time here, I think. The time to start would be, we have these people that want to put programming on, and they have the ability to do their own programming. I said it's always been open. It's a community station. You can put your own credits on it. We don't care. You want to put something on the air, start showing some of the works you can do. Start the process. Start to develop a repertoire of things that you can do, and we can get them on the air. There's never been an issue. I was never approached by them. I was just, like I said, ambushed in the newspaper. They didn't follow the policy that states here you're supposed to come to us first, and so that's how that happened. But we've always said, bring something. We prefer DVD format. We can do VHS, but we have DVD ability as well and Bluetooth. Question?
Bruce Nussbaum, 525 Willow Drive. You know, I'm listening to the conversation, and it's my understanding that less than 25% of the people in South Lyon get this on cable, that have cable now. I think we have to know what percentage of people are on WOW, possibly a feeler put out to find out how many people would be interested in watching it on WOW. And I'm getting the feeling from the conversation that they would like you to continue until they find something else. That is unfair to you. If they're going to give you another year contract or another 2-year contract or a 5-year contract, they should do it. Otherwise, you have the option of pulling it and they have nothing without going out and spending money. I don't think it's fair to you. I don't think it's fair to the city. I think the fair thing to do is if they want to form a committee, but give you another year contract after this is up, because the committee is not going to come up with something in 6 months. It's not going to happen. And I don't think it's fair to you to sit there and say, well, we can just continue until we can throw Ted out. I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Do you have WOW?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I did. I don't. Not when you lose it 3 days in a row when championship football games are on.
I'm with you.
Bruce, I'd like to
Joe,
just kind of dispel
Joel's
the idea
requested
that,
to speak here. Joe?
Yeah, just as a general comment, I do
See that?
I do feel that with Mr. Mayor running the service and having a contract up for renewal, we should give a fair share to see that that is pursued. As a general comment, I feel that many may share the same feeling that private enterprise normally does a better job than government, just as a rule. So with that being said, I would like to see it kept in the private enterprise right now, with the opportunity for pursuing renewal. That's it.
I have no idea what he just said.
Well, Bruce, I just wanted to address the idea that nobody's looking to kick Ted or his crew out. So
I didn't say that, but I think he needs a fair, he should at least know that, oh, well, if the
Well,
commission doesn't find something, we'll keep you for another year.
it keeps being kind of couched in those terms, and that's just simply not accurate. So it's just having the city have control over the station.
My name is Carol Siegel. I'm at 240 Brookwood Drive here in South Lyon, and I'm fairly new to the city. I've read the articles in the paper and I've listened to all this, and it sounds like a witch hunt more than it is anything else. And I have a lot of questions. It was my understanding that this cable service was a community service and that they accepted volunteers to run it. I see no reason to have a cable commission to try to drum up business, it sounds like, for you to run your own station. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, is you Mr.
Glenn.
Gwynn,
Yeah.
you want to run your own station. You want to have your own employees, you want to buy new equipment and all this kind. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
And I think the way it's going now, I happen to have WOW.
There
But
you
if
go.
you want to do a service for us, you need to get some competition cable in South Lyon. You know, I'm on on the south side of 10 Mile, I think I am. My son-in-law's on the north side. He has 2 choices. I have 1. Okay? If you want to do something with cable, get us some competition so we can get some different cable. As far as this cable station, I've watched it. It's very cute. They have a lot of things. When the kids have their activities, they show it. My grandkids get to see themselves on TV, which is really good. But going through a cable commission, going out and hunting for people to come in to volunteer to sit and think up a way to spend the city's money, or even mine, I think you're looking at the wrong place. What you need to be doing is getting volunteers to help Mr. Wallace and whoever he has. If he's been doing it himself for 31 years, get him some help. And then you'll get designers in there, you'll get web designers type people, you'll get people that know how to write, stations. I'm sure there's somebody else in South Lyons that knows how to do newscasting or whatever. But that's where you need to look, is for your volunteers, not for some cable commission that's just going to be spending money that I have very little of anymore. Thank you.
Ted, I actually have a question for Tim. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jay Hammer, 413 Wellington, South Lyon. I've been a taxpayer here for 20 years. I've had cable. I don't have WOW now, and I don't see the SLC TV. But if you're going to do a commission, and I don't know if it's another ulterior motive to try to get into this money, I don't want money that's going into the general fund to be spent on cable for 1,000 people or 1,100. I don't know how many people actually get it. If you want to do or set up a commission to go to the schools and have the schools do programming that he can put on, or somebody, whoever's running it, by all means. He's always said that. The problem is that you just don't get the kids leave after a year or 2 years. You set something up and then it starts over again. It just doesn't work. You need somebody that's going to be following it. As far as someone, you could get the schools maybe to get, do the parades, do, the witch's hat stuff, and do all that stuff, which now Ted does for nothing. He does that. And obviously, he sells advertising for football. I know he doesn't make anything like you may think he does, just covers the cost of paying his cameramen and doing all that. It's all about the city. And I understand you want to make it great. It's not going to be ABC. It's not going to be ESPN. It's not going to be that. It's a small town thing. And I don't want my taxes raised because you're spending this money on a cable thing, and all of a sudden you're running it because you got into a project and you got over your head and you're saying, well, we need to throw money to do this, this, this. You start spending money that goes to fixing roads and to fixing lights and to changing lights, and that $50,000 a year is huge. I mean, and that's really kind of the way I feel. Thank you.
Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, Tim, I actually have a question. If we have notice, hypothetically, that the current operator is not going to renew his contract, the one where the contract is, the owner, I'm sorry, is not going to renew his contract to be the cable operator. At that point, what do we do? I mean, do we open it up for an RFP, or do we?
Well, I would say, based on the language that was read during the meeting tonight, that it's going to renew automatically unless one side of that contract terminates in writing.
That's what went to this article in the Herald. If this is true, that the cable station operator won't seek contract renewal in January.
I think there's a number of ways to go about working out an arrangement so that you don't get caught without some kind of entity or person running your cable channel.
Okay.
You could approach the owner, trying to figure out, you may have to do several things on parallel tracks. Figure out what you want to do as far as a cable commission. Do you want to establish the commission directly? Do you want to have a committee like you have for the rec center, look into what your options are? Do you want to approach the current contract provider to determine whether you can switch to a month-to-month, if that's in everybody's best interest? There's a number of things you can do to try and make sure that there's a transition where you're not caught without a provider.
And I think there's time frame that's available here that we can do that kind of thing. And I want some programming presented to me by the ones that say they're so good at it.
It ran in the paper for 2 weeks that anybody who was interested in being on the commission send in their resume or call the city. Did we get any calls?
I haven't received any. No.
Thank you.
We also don't have a commission, though. I mean, we haven't officially sanctioned the idea that we're looking to organize a commission.
No, I know that, but I mean, it was just in the paper that we had done it for 2 weeks, so I just wanted to see if anybody was coming up and being, proactive or wanting to do it. Okay.
Okay. Unless there's something else really pertinent at the moment on this subject, I'd like to move on.
Well, I make a motion that we establish the South Lyon Cable Commission, that we make the first move to try to impanel a body.
All right.
I don't hear a second.
All right.
Well, I have a question. Just so I'm clear, Glenn, what would be, in a nutshell, the purpose of the commission? Would it be to determine whether or not, would it be twofold? Would it be one, to provide oversight to any content on any future programming? Or would it just be?
Keep saying content. Are you talking about censoring
No.
whatever's going on?
My
Okay.
concern is this. Right now, and again, no offense, Mr. Mayor, there is one person basically deciding what goes on.
Precisely.
Okay? And again, no offense, but there's one person.
I can say it's not true.
Well, ultimately, who has the decision of what goes on or not?
The city manager's requested things.
Right, but you put it on.
He's the one that's supposed to be watching.
I understand, but I'm saying about in general,
He doesn't look
as far as outside of what the city manager wants on, or the school board, or the water department, who decides what is put on the station?
Dave and I.
So essentially, you're saying then the city manager and you decide jointly what goes on the cable programming?
And Dave, not only that, he's made sure he has a TV right there next to his desk, and he turns it on and checks what's on.
All right, so you're saying then you don't
Do you have WOW, Dave?
Apparently, yes. I do.
No, I mean, that's.
But in all fairness, Mr. Mayor, you know, you put things up there, and I never know what's up there. I don't, you know, like the Easter egg thing. You told me it was on there. I went and looked at it, and it was great and all that stuff. But it's not like we sit down and discuss what content is going to be put up. You know, when I first got here, there were old World War II movies or something on there. But as I say, whenever I've asked you to put something up, you've always been very kind and put that up right away for us. So, but it's not like, you know, you and I sit down and look it over and say, let's put A, B, and C up there.
Again, when you're doing something for 31 years, you're just doing it.
No, I know. I just
That's
wanted to
including
clarify
coming
Mike's
here
question.
at 2 in the morning when I find out that something's gone kafooey at the station, so I had to fix it and put it back on and that kind of thing.
No, I'm not criticizing anything that's been done or anything that you've done over the last 30 years. My only concern is that essentially you have one person deciding, other than the requests that are made, you have one person deciding what's going to be played and what's not going to be played. And that's my only concern regarding the cable channel. That's it. I mean, I think you've done a great job as far as football games and everything else for the community. My only concern is you don't have a panel, or you don't have like somebody else deciding what's going on, or you're not getting approval. You basically are.
No, because we're an independent entity any more than the other vendors that deal with the city.
Oh, I understand that, but this is our local government channel. And I'm grateful for what you've done for the community. Again, I understand all the time you volunteered and all the effort you've put into it. My concern is very specific. There is nobody overseeing what is on there other than yourself or the owner, and I guess whatever the city manager wants to put on it. That's my only concern. I mean, everything I do for this rec committee.
Now you can see how it's been when people haven't been bringing stuff to us.
No, I understand that.
We've requested it all these years.
I understand that, and what...
It's called volunteerism, and we're not, you know, we just don't get it. Not you, I'm saying it doesn't happen.
Trust me, I know.
I don't mean you don't get it, I mean it doesn't happen.
I know from this rec center, but this rec committee that I put together, you know, with 2 other communities, everything we do is open to the public, and it goes to the South Lyon Rec Authority to approve.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have oversight for the rec committee that I think, in some essence, we're lacking for the local government channel. And that is my only concern and only criticism, is that there's nobody else deciding what goes on it. As far as what you've done, no criticism whatsoever. None. I mean, like, football games are great, everything you've done, and you've kept the station going. I just want to see a little bit more oversight as far as what is actually being placed on it as opposed to what's not.
Are you seconding his motion?
Well, that's why I'm trying to get clarification
further
what the
extension-
purpose. No, but that's why I'm trying to get clarification why you
Right.
want this commission. I don't want to be in a situation where we're